Hello, my name is Jennifer Houghton and I live in Grand Forks. This is a picture of me and my home in 2018, right after the flood that impacted 400 other homes and dozens of businesses. The depth of the water inside my house was over 4 feet. We reap what we sow, my friends, and floods and economic losses are what we are reaping when we champion industrial clear-cut forestry at the expense of our communities and ecosystems. It's time to invest in other ways of doing forestry. The Boundary Kettle watershed has suffered 3 unusually high-level flood seasons since 2017. We're going to take a quick look at how that's linked to clear-cut forestry in BC, but first, let's look at the estimated costs of the 2018 Grand Forks flood. The total here is $103 million, not including all losses. There are additional economic losses not accounted for here, including in the agricultural sector. As of 2020, there are businesses that are still struggling to recover and some that never reopened. All this, and Grand Forks is a small town with a population of only 4,000. The 2019 BC Climate Risk Assessment predicts increased severe flooding across BC over the next 30 years. Forestry is not the only employer in the Boundary. In BC overall, forestry provides only 16,000 direct jobs. The number of direct forestry jobs in BC has the potential to be increased by 2 to 9 times via the implementation of eco-forestry management practices, as demonstrated at the Harrop Proctor Community Forest, and a shift to value-added sawmills. When local people are provided with the means to manage local forests, it not only creates more jobs, but also ensures that the people making the decisions about the land have a direct interest in protecting both the ecological services of the land, including managing our water and our climate, and its current and future economic value. Given the increasing number of major floods predicted to occur in BC and the impact on the economy, it's imperative that the government and forest industry proceed with extreme caution, not only to protect property, but also to protect lives. As of yet, there's no evidence that the clear-cut forestry practices in the Boundary have not contributed to the amount of flooding in the past 3 years. However, there is an increasing body of research indicating that forest disturbances has impacts on floods. There are already a number of reports that show the detrimental impacts of clear-cut forestry on not only the Boundary watershed, but other watersheds across BC. In 2019, Mac Hydro found that large forest disturbances, such as clear-cutting, have substantial impacts on both average peak flows and large destructive floods. The other problem associated with clear-cut forestry here in the Boundary and across BC is the damage to the watershed caused by Forest Service roads. There are already 16,000 kilometers of Forest Service roads in the Boundary, and more to come, and they're not being properly maintained or remediated. As a result, there is significant damage to stream function as well as sediment buildup in the watercourses, very likely contributing to these major floods. There are those who would blame the high recent flood events on snowpack. However, the snowpack in 2017 was not high. Also relevant to the snowpack topic is that clear-cuts accumulate 30 to 40% more snowpack than intact forests, and that snow melts 30 to 40% faster in clear-cuts. Given the condition of the forests and the uncertainty presented by climate change risks, it's imperative that forestry professionals and the BC government choose to apply the precautionary principle to logging practices, and that can be done through the use of eco-forestry methodology and conservation of both at-risk ecosystems and what's left of old growth. The BC Strategic Climate Risk Assessment found that BC is at increased risk for severe flooding. It's already happening, as well as the loss of our forest resources. Right now, people across BC are talking about building strong local food economies. We can do the same with forestry. When we focus on strengthening the local supply chain and getting as much value out of each tree that's cut, we'll build a stronger BC that's better able to withstand global economic downturns. Investing tax dollars in management practices which are causing an industry decline are not a responsible use of taxpayer dollars. We must invest differently to get different results. The time for half measures and incremental changes to the Forest and Range Practices Act have long passed. We need to see the following. Number 1, invest in a task force to write the necessary changes to BC forestry legislation to support all of the points below within the next 3 years, including putting an end to existing corporate tenures. Number 2, invest in training and education programs for new forestry workers and retraining to provide a transition for current forestry workers from industrial forestry to ecoforestry methods, which emphasize ecosystem protection and restoration, as well as natural selection logging, and make this full transition happen in 5 years. Number 3, invest in building a value-added forest products industry in BC, including the creation of local log sort yards and transitioning existing sawmills to enable capacity for creating higher value wood products, and ensure that all trees cut in BC are milled in BC. Number 4, put aside 30% of old growth forest in BC and conserve it for its ecosystem values. Number 5, the creation of community-based land use planning committees to maintain, manage, and protect the significant ecological values and services of natural forest ecosystems while supporting community economies and well-being.